Well, welcome back. I know it's been a really long time, probably since April, since I've put a video out. But I've been busy, things get in the way. You have to work, you have to make money to support hobbies like this, buildings and cars. But I've got a really interesting story for you. Behind me is my very recently acquired 1934 Chevy half-ton truck with what's called a Hercules woody wagon body on it. So most people know Woodies from the, I guess, 30s, 40s, maybe into the 50s, that Ford was big on producing right from the factory, the Ford Woody wagons. But some bodybuilders created a wood body that were intended to be used on other cars, so Chevrolet, Packard, some of the Dodges, even though not up on my Woody facts, but I think Dodge produced the Woody from the factory. A body that could be placed on essentially a truck chassis. And in the case of Chevrolet, I know some of these were produced this way at the factory for National Forest Service use, and the government apparently ordered these that way. But the literature and the documentation is almost non-existent on these, other than a little bit of catalog snippets and pictures I was able to find. An early Chevy Facebook group was helpful in identifying that this was a Hercules body on the back of this 1934 Chevy half-ton truck. What's more interesting than that is the story of how this truck found me. And that's right, I was not interested in the market to find a 1934 Chevy Woody or any other car at the moment. I have plenty of projects around here between cars and bikes and what have you. But I'll make this story condensed as much as I can so that it makes sense still. But I think you'll find this pretty interesting. And you can call this a string of coincidences. You can call it weird. You can call it divine intervention. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But last October, when I kind of started this channel and was trying to come up with some video ideas to showcase some of my car or bike projects and all the things I have going on around here, I bought this really great commercial building, which so far has been able to fit my stuff here in Connecticut. And the history of this building was that it was built originally, I guess, in the late 40s, 1950, 51, something like that, and was added on to many times to make it the size that it is today, which is large. So there's lots of additions in here, but it's a big building. And there's lots of different garage spaces and a former retail space with a showroom. And it was a glass company. And it was one family that started the glass company and ran it forever. So they sold it, sold off the name, kept the building. Then the building became part of the estate of the founder, so on and so forth. It changed hands, and then I ended up with it. But a daughter-in-law of the founder was apparently somebody my wife knows. And my wife didn't know the surname or the history really of this building other than the little bit of conversation that we had had about it. And at some point in July, they bumped into each other at a basketball game. And they got to talking. And this woman asked, I guess where I was or why I wasn't at the game or something like that. And she said something to the effect that I was messing with a car somewhere or something. So it sparked up a little bit of a conversation saying, oh, is your husband into cars? What does he do? She says, oh yeah, he's got a a lot of projects and is always messing with something. And he bought this building, yada, yada, yada. So when they discussed the building, basically her jaw dropped and said, that was my family's building. Glass company was run out of there. So they're both kind of surprised that, I guess that they didn't know this fact or that this had happened or whatever. Anyway, she asked my wife if I knew anybody that would be interested in a Woody. And she didn't know a whole lot about the car. Her husband, so the son of the founder, if you're following this, had died, passed away, I think almost 2 years ago. And had the Woody in the basement garage of their house, and she was, it was an unfinished project. She's looking to free up space. So she said, I'll mention it to my husband. So we talked about it, and I figured out who she was referring to, and all of a sudden, like, the light bulb went off that this car behind me spent 40-something years in this building by the family that built this building, ran a glass business out of here, and were car enthusiasts also. And this was an unfinished project that was moved from here when this building sold. So if you followed that, it's starting to kind of come full circle. So I speak to the woman with this car, and I go and look at it, and we can't really, she didn't know if it was a Chevy or a Ford or anything about it, so I go look at it. And I'm not really up on my 30s cars a lot. I'm into kind of more recent stuff, generally speaking, though I do have some older 20s things. So I look at it, and it's a Chevy. And then I go to do some research on it, and Chevy never produced a Woody. This is where I find out about Hercules / Hercules Campbell Body Company based out of Tarrytown, New York, not all that far from here. And that some of these bodies were put on the truck chassis for National Forestry Service sales. Okay, that makes it even more interesting. What's it worth? Who knows? So that was a difficult thing I was interested in it because I wanted it to come back to this building, home, so to speak. And I was obviously interested in finishing the project. So, this man and his father had worked on this thing for years here, had a lot of wood redone on the body, did a lot of stuff themselves here in this building, and had a lot of parts they had acquired over the years, all of the shipping labels to this address. It's a very weird thing. So we settle on a price. I buy the car, and a couple of days ago, had it flatbedded here from where it was kind of living in her basement. And I've started to clean it up, sort through all the parts, get the engine running, and come up with a plan on how to finish this project off with virtually no information available about the Hercules body and what it looked like and what it had for window curtains or anything like that. So if anybody knows anything about these, leave me a comment. If you have any documentation, I know there's just really one catalog of these you can kind of get a used copy of out there for, it's like $400 for the book. So I'm just trying to find some photos or something, anything really. But I'll take you off the tripod and I'll take you around the car and show you what it's looking like now after kind of a long day yesterday of cleaning and buffing to get some crud and stuff off the body. But before all that, I'm going to insert some pictures of when I found it in her basement and kind of how it was situated and how it looked. It was very tricky to get it. It was tucked in a corner, didn't want to roll. To get it out of there, and a video clip of getting transported here and getting loaded back into the building where it lived for a very long time. So after that, we'll come back, I'll do a walk around and show you where this project sits and what my plans are. So this is what I first saw when I went and visited with her, the seller. This was down in the basement. The car had come through a over garage door into the walkout basement and had somehow been turned and kind of tucked in a corner, parts in the back of the car, tarp on top, super filthy. Hadn't really been touched in a number of years. The hood, I don't think had been on it probably since they had transported it to the house. It was kind of folded up in the back on some blankets. It's going to need a little work. I think it was stored with the weight of itself on itself, and it might have bent the hinge a little bit, but we'll fix that. This one here, the interior, it's similar to how it still sits, but I had a box of keys and handles. I still can't find the ignition key to it, so I've just hot wired the coil to get it to start for now. Floorboard was there. I put it back in place. And then the last shot coming up here is the back. One of the big questions about the Hercules body is if there was supposed to be sort of an upper rear door to that. There's no evidence that there ever was one, so that's one of the things I really need to figure out with some photos if I can, and I'll have to make that window frame if that's the case. So the next thing I did with the help of a friend was to bring a set of wheel dollies over with a floor jack and get this unstuffed from where it was and facing the garage door ready to leave. And it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but it wasn't super difficult. It was just really tight and kind of hard to get it out, but we managed to do it. So this shot here, it's facing the garage door ready to leave in the coming days. There it is from outside looking in. First time daylight, I think, had been on the front of it. And again, who knows, as I said earlier, 10, 12, 14, 15 years. Something like that. Here we've arrived. I always use Merle Towing, Merle Automotive, Torrington, Connecticut. Best in the business. Free plug for them. If you need something moved and you're anywhere in the area, call them up. And without issue, we load it up, strapping it down, getting ready to head back to my shop. First time the car's been anywhere since it was placed into that basement garage. Slightly sad day for the family selling it, but I think I'll make them proud when it's all finished. So we've arrived. The geometry of the approach to the garage bay I wanted to put this back in is not the most conducive thing to a flatbed, but we made it work. And here it is, once we got it inside the shop safely. Pretty dirty. Didn't magically clean itself on the ride over. You can see the blue on the front driver's tire on the white wall. We'll have to look at those tires for a date code. I really don't know how old they are. But like I said, there's no cracking or checking on them. It's pretty funny. I think a modern tire you bought nowadays, if it sat for that long, it would have cracked on you and you'd be throwing it out even with no miles on it. So the next day after this, I kind of cleaned it up, buffed it, washed it, got a lot of gook and adhesive off the running board and the fenders. My father came up and helped. There's a shot of it with the hood back on. All right, so we're going to do a walk around here and take a look at this. This is started life. Well, we don't know if it left the factory as a Woody wagon or if it left the factory as a truck. This is a 34 Chevrolet, what they called a DB pickup, and that those letter designations just had to do with the year. So DB was 34. I guess the 35 would have been EB, so on. I'm not sure how they recycled the letters or not. This is what it looks like. Tried to clean it up a bit. Kind of stuck the bumper on there temporarily. I know it's very crooked. Needs to be adjusted. Here's down the other side. I haven't gotten a chance to clean any of this paint up yet or really do too much with that. Got plenty of other projects and mess around here to mess with. So as ironic as it might be, if you listen to and kind of followed the story, this Woody was in the back corner to my back left, I guess, for years and years and years. When I bought this building, I kind of moved a lot of my stuff in there, and I had a pair of 1934 Connecticut plates. Those are truck plates. And I had screwed them to the wall, actually in the corner where this car lived. And if you want to talk about ironic or coincidental, we can actually use your manufacturer plates in Connecticut with DMV's approval. So my plan is to do just that, but just to see how it looked, I stuck one on there. Also, this had no filler neck installed. It belongs coming out through there. So I temporarily kind of set that up just to put some gas in the tank. But so this is it. I have tons and tons and tons of parts that I've kind of put upstairs and have been going through. But really pretty basic thing. It's the engine's a straight 6. It's a 207, and that's a 3-speed transmission. I don't know if I think it's probably not synchro mesh. I haven't moved it other than just to rock it kind of back and forth here to make sure the clutch wasn't stuck to the flywheel. But it's got I guess 53,000 miles on it. No key, so I've had to hot wire the coil to make it run. There's a new wiring harness installed, not quite fully hooked up yet. A lot of the wood has been replaced. Some of these bows, and then I don't know if this is original or not. I know the top has been redone. It's just lots of basement dust, and the rain gutters have to be buffed out. There's some kind of adhesive all over them. So I only have the front seat, and I do have the frame, but no seats for the back. So typically a Woody, where the door is to get into the back, you'd have a half row bench and possibly a third row way back there. Or you could have no seats in the back and just put some flooring or a mat or a carpet. I think I'll opt for the seats because I do have 4 kids that probably want to go get ice cream with this thing, and we can't just throw them all in the back there. That isn't the safest thing to do. So, I have all of the irons and angle brackets and everything that kind of need to go back in place, and all the original body parts. And they've saved, I have all this A-pillar, B-pillar trim. I have door glass. I have the handles. There really isn't much that it seems to be missing. In fact, these tires, and you'll see, or you did see in the prior photos of getting it out of the basement, still had the blue protectant on the white wall, and I cleaned them off. And I found new old stock hubcaps that they had bought 20, 30 years ago, and I popped them on. In a lot of these 30s any make with a chrome grill shell like that suffers heavily from rust and pitting. I mean, this thing, look at it. It's like a mirror. You know, the wiring harness needs to be finished with the braided stainless conduit and make up the lamp holders and everything. But even a spare, and they had chrome plated the hold down. I actually just went to the hardware store and got a chrome plated half 20 bolt to hold that, lock that down. So that's pretty neat. I mean, these tires are ancient, and they're there's no dry rot and also no miles. I mean, how cool is that? And the back door. And these are apparently all the pieces of oak that were taken out of here and replaced and milled. And why some things were redone, I don't know. Like this arch here, and to me there was nothing actually wrong with that. But anybody that would know the answers to these questions is no longer with us, so we, you know, a mystery it shall remain. Original 6-volt system. We got a new battery under the floor there. And the swing out windshield, I have all the hardware, none of it's hooked up because the trim pieces do have to be put back in, but it's just a giant puzzle between all the trim and you know, the hard thing about this is there's nothing to go off. There's absolutely no reference material. You know, my thought is to go to Hershey this October and try to find some literature or photos, because otherwise it's going to be real hard. We'll open up the hood here carefully. Those ends are supposed to have leathers on them, so they don't. I have to order those. But this appears. Here's the mower tank just to make it run. And the air cleaner, we're still trying to find that. See if she has it at her house. But this looks to be completely rebuilt and repainted and put back in here, along with the transmission. Which you can't see all that well, but everything's clean. All the suspension looks like it was reworked. The brakes, the brake rods and linkages and everything is in pretty good shape. So if there's some gas still in it, in there, which I think there is, I can get it to start. I do have to, so I put some gasoline in the tank yesterday after sort of temporarily piecing in the filler neck, and the mechanical pump won't pull any up. So I took the pump out, took it apart. It was absolutely packed with goo and varnish. Cleaned it all out, but it's still not, I think the diaphragm and the little piston in there are still getting bound up, so I ordered a rebuild kit for the fuel pump. And then I'll let it soak in the ultrasonic. I kind of did a quick clean on it yesterday just to see if I could get it to work, but it doesn't want to do that. So let me put you down. I'll hook the battery back up and choke it and fire it up and see if it starts. I mean, I did get this starting. I'm not going to lie and say this is the first time I'm starting this on video, like a revival kind of thing. I did start it in her basement. It was so dark down there that I really couldn't film it, and I was by myself anyway. But I did get it to run in the basement of her house, and it was kind of, nobody could really determine how long it had been since it was last started. At least 10, 15, probably 15 years. So let me get set up to start it up, and I'll be right back. All right, let's do this. tank might be out of gas. I think she was loaded up. The float might be leaking into the overflowing and not shutting off. Let it warm up for a minute before I goose it again. Sounds good. Loading up. Gotta let it get hot. So it definitely is running too rich. I'm gonna have to check the timing and then adjust the carburetor. I don't know to what extent when they put the motor back together that they actually did any of that. So. Coolant coming from somewhere. We'll have to figure that one out. But shut it off. That's how you shut it off when you don't have a key. Go pull the battery off so nothing catches on fire. Okay. So that's kind of the story, and that's why I said the car found me. Hopefully you followed all of that. I tried not to be long-winded. Usually when I tell this story to people, it's a half an hour because it's so complicated, but I tried to give you the abridged version. But this old 34 Chevy is back home, at least its old home, and it's going to get finished here and kept in my family and cherished, you know, the way it was by its last set of owners. So curious what your thoughts are about a series of coincidences or something more. Depends what you believe, I suppose, but personally I think it was not coincidental. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.